Hey there, and welcome to the Event Crushed podcast. Each week, we'll be chatting about all things wedding industry, entrepreneurship, and how to crush it in life and business. I'm so glad you're here. Now, let's dive into this week's episode. To every wedding pro out there who is pouring your heart into this industry, this episode is for you. Now, I know that might sound a little bit cheesy, but I wanted to take advantage of this milestone episode, this 50th episode, and do something a little bit different. And so I wanted to kind of do an open letter to wedding pros because I know that 2025 has been a really interesting year so far for our industry. And there is so much noise wherever you are at online, negativity towards the wedding industry, people complaining about the wedding tax, all kinds of things, complaining about how expensive wedding vendors are and how expensive it is to have a wedding, and just a lot of negativity. And then, of course, on top of that, you have the political climate and everything that's going on in the world and in our country right now. And it can just make for a stressful time to be a wedding professional. And I just wanted to provide you with some encouragement because I know some days it's hard to keep going in your business and you might think about throwing in the towel and you might question, is this all worth it? Is this worth the investment for me to continue? The emotional investment, the time investment, the financial investment that it takes to run a business. Is it worth it to keep going? And I just know how easy it is to get caught up in the hustle of running your wedding business, whether you're a photographer or a florist or a planner or a caterer or a baker, stationery designer, what have you. It's really easy to get caught up in the hustle of trying to book more clients and book more weddings and constantly be present on social media and constantly be putting out new content. And it can be so exhausting and draining. And so I think it's important to take time to, one, celebrate the wins in your business and to celebrate how far that you have come and to recognize the impact that you are making in somebody's life. I think a lot of people tend to downplay what wedding professionals do, and they don't really recognize how impactful it is to be a part of somebody's, oftentimes, one of the best days of their lives. And I want to make it clear that if you are somebody in the wedding industry serving couples, you are making a huge difference in that couple's life, no matter what capacity you're serving. And if you're planning that wedding, if you're photographing that wedding, if you're doing the flowers for that wedding, every piece of that puzzle is so important and so essential to making that day happen. And I just wanted to take a moment to recognize that and to call that out and to encourage you to keep going if you have been feeling like things have been a struggle this year. We're only a few months into 2025 and it's already been kind of a crazy year. And I am hopeful that things will get better for our industry and that things will turn around. But I know for a lot of people right now, it doesn't look super hopeful. And so at the end of the day, my goal is always to be a source of encouragement to other wedding professionals and to remind you that everything that you are doing for your couples, for your clients, for the families of your couples, it is worth it and you are making a big difference. A lot of the work that we do as wedding professionals goes unnoticed by the couple and by their families. And that's a good thing because we don't necessarily want them to know all of the fires that we're putting out and all of the crazy things that are happening behind the scenes. So honestly, it's good that they don't know. However, it can be difficult to be doing all of these things for our clients and to not, receive that thank you because they don't know. They obviously know that we worked hard on their wedding day and hopefully they are grateful and they tell us thank you. But for so many of the little things that we do throughout the planning process for our couples and on the wedding day itself, it's easy for it to almost feel like a thankless job because we are working so hard. I know that your hard work can feel like it goes unnoticed by many, especially the more behind the scenes things that our couples don't really see us doing. I just want you to know that that work matters and that if you are giving your couple a top-notch experience, not just on the wedding day, but throughout the process, that you are going above and beyond for them and it is making a big impact on them because you are making their lives as they go through what can be a very stressful time of wedding planning. You are decreasing that stress for them and you are allowing them to enjoy the planning process and to navigate and walk through this stressful season with more ease because you are there for them and you are going above and beyond for them and you are really affecting their lives in that way. The work that we do as wedding professionals, it is not just showing up on somebody's wedding day and, making pretty flowers or setting up the signage or serving dinner. It's creating lifelong memories for our couples and their loved ones. And I think that's huge. And I don't know how or why people try to downplay that because these memories are going to live in their minds forever. And we are so privileged to be able to play a small role in this huge moment in these people's lives. And so I think sometimes we get so caught up in the mundane day-to-day work that we do, and it's easy to kind of forget about the big picture. I know I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast before, just about stepping back and looking at the big picture and reminding ourselves why we do what we do and how what we do does have a big impact. And it's not just this fluffy luxury thing. Like it's important. And it's creating and preserving those lifelong memories. So I want to pause here and just share a quick story about that, about how my experience as a wedding planner had a very positive impact on one of my past brides. And this couple came up to Oregon to have a destination wedding on the coast. This was, I believe, 2017. Sweetest couple ever. I just adore them. But the bride's father ended up getting cancer, and then he ended up passing away a couple of years after that, unfortunately. But I got this email from Nicole several months after I planned her wedding. I mean, she was so sweet. She left me a review and all the things right after the wedding. But this, I kind of heard from her out of the blue months later, maybe 6 months later. And I just wanted to read the email to you because it had a really big impact on me at the time. And I came across it again recently. And it was just such a good reminder about how the work that we do matters. So I will just read this to you and you'll get a little glimpse into this experience. So Nicole said, "Hi, Becky. I hope this email finds you well. I'm happy to still see yours and your family's adventures, both wedding and personal, on Instagram. My gratitude for you planning me the wedding of my dreams has recently been on my mind a lot. My dad was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic lung cancer to the brain on January 31st during a trip to the emergency room after a bad day of tennis. Our lives were forever changed that day, and one of my first thoughts was, thank goodness my dad got to walk me down the aisle. Not only that, but thank goodness I had such a beautiful wedding. And I had a beautiful wedding because of you. You worked with me to ensure my vision came to life, from tolerating my precise taste, to hauling flowers and barrels in your minivan, to fixing my cake, to adding on rentals the day before when you were sick, to probably a bunch of stuff I know nothing about. You did it all. I wouldn't have had the wedding of my dreams without you, and I wouldn't have had all of the beautiful memories of my time with my dad at my wedding without you. I hope your love and passion for event planning always continues because you're so gifted at it. I also hope you know the value you add to people's lives. Yes, weddings are beautiful, but my wedding is no longer only my wedding. It will likely be my last trip with my dad as well, and the highlight was the event you planned for us. I will never forget those special moments. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Sincerely, Nicole. You can probably imagine that when I first read that email, I cried like a baby. I was so touched, and I still am to this day. And I think it's just such an important reminder about how the work that we do goes beyond the wedding day itself. Like Nicole said, that day was one of her last, the last trip to Oregon, the last trip that she got to take with her dad. And the memories that she has from that day and how grateful she was that her dad was able to walk her down the aisle. And it's just so much bigger than us. And I think it's important for us to remember how big these memories are and how they will live on. Again, no matter what you're doing for the wedding day, it doesn't matter if you're planning or designing or photographing or filming. Every piece is important and every piece matters. The next thing I want to touch on a little bit is this idea about what you can control and what you can't control. And it's something I've been thinking about a lot, and I shared a little bit about this on Threads recently. But I see a lot of wedding pros putting energy into things that ultimately they can't control. And that can look like a lot of different things. But at the end of the day, I think that if we were to divert that energy into things that we can control, into our direct marketing efforts and into how we're showing up online and into the relationships that we're building with other wedding and event professionals, if we focus that energy onto things that we can control, we will be so much happier. There are so many things that are outside of our control, including the couples that hire us. Like ultimately, if a couple decides to go in a different direction, okay, that's their decision. We can't do anything at that point. Couples' budgets, maybe their budget is smaller than what we're used to working with. And so we have to kind of take some liberties in the design department. Or, trends are always changing. We can't necessarily control like which direction the trends are going to go and the way the industry shifts. Instead of getting fixated on those kinds of things, if we focus on the effort that we're making in our local community, if we focus on our own attitude and how we're handling situations and again, how we're showing up, I think that will make a huge impact in our businesses and our lives. And I know that we all know this, but success isn't just about booking the most weddings, but about building a business that aligns with your values. And I know that's something that I have become so passionate about. Just this idea that we can build a business and a life that we love, and we can have time with our family, and we can have time for vacation, and we can have time to be a present mom or dad or wife or partner and not feel like our business is running our lives. And I know that that's totally feasible. And I know that our industry, a lot of industries, kind of glorify that hustle culture of go, 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 book more weddings, get her done. And I think that can be really toxic. And I think that there is this whole other side of the coin where you can find alignment and peace and also make a living doing what you love. And that to me is like the best of both worlds. And so I want that for myself. I want that for you. So I kind of went on a tangent there, but back to what I was saying about what you can control and what you can't control. If you can just kind of adjust your mindset to really think about, if you find yourself starting to get upset about something related to your business, ask yourself, is this something I can control? Do I have the ability to change this or to make this better? Or is this just the circumstance that it is, and I need to work around it and I need to adjust my attitude towards the situation? Because a lot of times it just comes down to our own attitudes and how we can adjust, because things are not always going to go our way. Things are not always going to go perfectly, as we all know in the world of weddings and events. But a huge part of being successful and going the distance in your business is how you handle those tough situations. And do you handle them with grace? I think grace is a very important quality to have in the wedding industry. Absolutely. All right. So I have a few more things to say here in this open letter to wedding pros. The next thing I wanted to touch on was just some encouragement for the hard days, because I know as business owners, we all have hard days. You've probably seen that graphic going around where it's like the life of an entrepreneur, and it shows kind of this like chart with a very zigzaggy line, because, you know, it's like one day or 1 minute you're feeling on top of the world and everything's amazing. And then the next moment you're like crashing down and you're like, I don't know why I started my business. I'm a failure. I can't do anything right. And then you're back up to being like, oh, I'm crushing it. Everything is fantastic. And then you're back down to feeling like a failure all over again. There's so many highs and there's so many lows. And I think that's true of any business owner. I don't think that's unique to wedding professionals. But I just think it's important to recognize that we all, at some point or another, are going to deal with some level, most likely, some level of burnout, some level of imposter syndrome. We're all going to deal with self-doubt at times. And all of those feelings are normal to some degree. And so if you are feeling that way, I just want to acknowledge that. And you are not alone in that. There are probably hundreds or thousands of other wedding pros in that exact moment feeling very similar to how you do. So you're not alone, but I hope that you remember why you started your business and you remember the impact that you are making and think through ways to come out of that. So if it's burnout, is it because you're taking on weddings every single weekend and you're not getting a break? Or is it because you need to bring on some help and you just haven't done that yet? If it's imposter syndrome, are you constantly seeing your competitors on social media and comparing yourself to them? I mean, there's things we can do about that. We can mute those people. We can unfollow them if we need to. I mean, there's no shame in that. Even the most successful wedding professionals have tough seasons, believe it or not. I think especially with Instagram, it is so easy to look at someone else's journey as an outsider, and you're only seeing the highlight reel and you're only seeing the curated things that they want to post and that they want to show you. But you're not seeing all of the hard moments in between, because in general, we don't want to publicly share those things because it's vulnerable and we want to seem like we have it all together, which is unfortunate because none of us have it all together. I think hopefully we all know that a lot of us are still figuring it out as we go, no matter how much it seems like we are so confident in what we're doing or that we just are going through life with ease. Most of us are still figuring a lot of things out as we go. And so when you start feeling that self-doubt or you start feeling like you're the only one going through this tough time, just know that that's not true. And remind yourself that so many others are going through the same thing, and reach out to a wedding pro friend. You can reach out to me. Absolutely. You can reach out to somebody local to you in your community. You can reach out to somebody across the country or the world that you've connected with online, and just reach out and let them know what you're going through and let them know that you're struggling, because there is no good in keeping that inside. At the very least, share it with your partner or with a friend. All that to say, just find someone to share in your struggles. And I have a very strong feeling that they are going to be like, me too. I just went through that, or I'm currently going through that, or I know how you feel because I've been there. I've had that conversation more times than I can say on both ends, me being the one sharing or being the one on the other end being like, yep, I've totally been there, because I have been through pretty much anything you can imagine over the last almost 13 years as a wedding planner. Super high highs, super low lows, and everything in between. And I just want to end that with a reminder that if you have ever felt like giving up your business, or that it wasn't worth it anymore, or that it just was taking the joy out of your life. I mean, I guess the first thing I want to say is, like, if that's really true, if you feel like your business is sucking the joy out of your life, then like that is probably a reason to consider not continuing, or like scale down dramatically. There is no reason to force yourself to continue doing something that you don't love anymore. And it's hard to say that because I never want to encourage anyone to not have your business anymore. But if it's become like this soul sucking thing that you're doing to make money only, and you've lost your love and your passion of it, then I think that that's a totally fair time to reevaluate and ask yourself, do I want to keep doing this? Does it make sense to keep doing this? But if it's not at that point and you're just a bit burnt out, you're a little bit stressed out, you're feeling like, I don't know, I think I want to keep doing this because I really enjoy it, but I'm also like feeling pretty low right now, then I would just encourage you to do whatever you need to do to continue on to where you will enjoy it and still enjoy your life. So if that's scaling back, if that is adjusting your services, maybe you are doing more full service planning if you're a planner, but you're not loving it, maybe moving just towards wedding management. Maybe that will work better within your lifestyle. There are so many things we can do as wedding pros. Like, that's the really beautiful thing about owning your business, is that that's something we can control, is what services we offer, how much we charge, who we work with. Like, we do have a lot of power and control, just kind of calling back to that discussion earlier about what we can control and what we can't. As a business owner, we can control so many things. And so if you're at a point of struggling, just ask yourself, what can I change? You don't have to continue going the way things are if it's not working for you. And there's no reason to do that, because at any point you can say, I'm only going to take this number of weddings next year, or I'm only going to offer this level of service, or I'm going to specialize in this type of wedding. There are so many different ways to pivot or just to make things work for you. Your business should work for you, right? Why would we start a business if it's just running our lives? And if it's to the point where it's not working for you anymore, then reevaluate and make a change and adjust things. I've seen this a lot lately. I've seen people scaling back and making these, it seems like at the time, a scary decision, but it pays off. And you as a person will be more at peace and a happier person and a better partner and a better parent if you are happy with where your business is at and how you're running it. So don't just keep going with things because it's what you've always done. No matter how long you've been in the industry, it is never too late to pivot and to make a change that is right for you. So for this last section here, I just want to encourage you to reflect on your own wins, big or small. I think it's important to celebrate our businesses as we go and not just huge milestones. Like right now, I'm celebrating this 50th episode, which is very exciting, but we need to also be celebrating all of the small milestones in between. Whenever you book a wedding, whenever you get a new client, whenever you have a client reach out that is an ideal client, whenever you see that people are finding you from different sources. Maybe you got a new referral from a venue that you haven't worked at before, or maybe somebody, you've been working on your SEO and people are starting to find you on Google. Like, that's huge. So whatever that looks like for you, I would just reflect back on, I would say, the last 6 months, but also 2025 so far. And what are the wins that you've had since January? Now that we just wrapped up our first quarter, what are some wins that you've had in quarter one of 2025? I also would highly recommend from time to time, and especially when you're feeling a bit down, to go back through your reviews and just read them and remind yourself, this is something I do somewhat regularly. If I start feeling discouraged, I go to my main like Wedding Wire reviews page where I have the majority of my reviews, and I just start reading through them. And they're so nice. And so I can't help but be like, oh yeah, I guess I don't suck. I guess I'm not terrible, because all these people said that I'm actually really good at what I do. So I guess these thoughts in my head are a lie, and maybe I shouldn't be listening to them. I think we've all been in that situation. So just go back and look at your reviews. Something that Candace Coppola, my business coach, does, she has something called a smile file, and she basically saves or screenshots any kind of like kind words, reviews that she gets, anything that just would bring a smile to her face. She saves it all into a folder. And I think that's brilliant. I've started saving the screenshots, but I haven't actually moved them into a folder yet. But I've started this practice, but I just think it's so smart because we just need that reminder sometimes. We forget. We are so easy to forget as humans. And so whether it seems silly or not, I mean, I think it's an important practice to remind yourself of your value and your worth, and hearing it in other people's words about the value that you added for their wedding day. And I would encourage you to think about some recent wins and do something to celebrate, because I think celebrating our wins should be normal practice, but I'm guessing a lot of us probably aren't doing that because we're only focusing on the big wins. Like, when I get to my first 6-figure year, then I'll celebrate. Or when I book 20 weddings in a year, then I'll celebrate. But there's no reason to save our celebrating for those really big moments. We should be celebrating all the time. The little wins along the way are so important too. And so what I want you to do is to do something this week to celebrate a win. So that could be posting about a win. You could share a recent review that you've received. You could just share in a Facebook community that you were a part of. You could share on Instagram. You could share with a friend. Just share with somebody about a recent win that you've had. I know in Wedding Pro Insiders, every Wednesday, there is a place. It's called Win Wednesday. And the members go in and share about a win for the week. And it's just great. I love reading through the other wins from these other wedding pros because it's just fun to encourage each other and to see what everyone is accomplishing. And then we can also, we can share in that and share our own wins. And sometimes I'm like, I don't really have a lot to share this week, but try to come up with something. And other weeks I'm like, I have like 5 wins this week. So the life of an entrepreneur, right? So again, you could post about your win. You could treat yourself. I'm big on treating myself to an iced coffee or maybe a frozen yogurt or a blizzard from Dairy Queen. Like, definitely anything ice cream or coffee related is going to be my go-to, or a cookie also could be at the top of my list. But what does that look like for you? What kind of treat could you treat yourself with this week? So just find a way to celebrate this little win. Grab a bottle of champagne and give yourself a little toast and just celebrate the little wins along with the big ones, because they are important and the work that you're doing matters. To bring it back to the beginning, it's not just a wedding day. This isn't meaningless, invaluable work. This is extremely important work that these couples and their families might remember for the rest of their lives. So I hope that encourages you today. This whole thing, I had notes, I'm kind of winging it, but hopefully it came out okay and that I got across the points that I wanted to get across. I'm sorry if it was a little bit jumbled at times, but I am so thankful for you, the listeners of this podcast. And this has been so much fun. 50 episodes in, and I'm almost at a year, which is insane because part of me feels like I just started the podcast. So to be at almost a year is pretty wild. I am so grateful and I can't wait to keep going. I mean, I have zero intention of stopping this podcast, just so we're clear. I have so many interviews still to share with you. And I will say too, this is the first solo episode that I've done in a very long time, just because I've had so many fantastic interviews to share and I've wanted to get them out in a timely manner, but I also really enjoy solo episodes. And so I hope that you enjoy this. My goal is to do more of a mix of solo and interview, but if you prefer one or the other, I would love to hear from you. If you're like, no, we're good, we like the interviews, don't worry about solo episodes, like that's good feedback, let me know. Or if you do like the solo episodes, I would love to know that too. So I would also love it if you would share this episode with a friend. Maybe you have had a conversation with a friend recently about your struggles in business, in life, in the wedding industry. Share this with them and hopefully it will encourage them and it'll be a source of conversation between the two of you. So I would so appreciate it if you would share. I would so appreciate it if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts. And we'll be back here next Wednesday, as always, with a new episode. And I have another great interview coming up for you. So thank you again for listening. I really enjoy our time together, and reach out to me if you ever have any questions or thoughts or ways that I can make the podcast better. I am all ears. Okay, friends, I will catch you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Event Crushed podcast. I hope you found value in this episode, and if you did, please consider sharing it with a wedding industry friend. We also hope you'll consider leaving a rating or review for the show to help other listeners find it. This podcast is edited and produced by Ace Sound Design. If you're looking to elevate your audio experience, their info can be found in the show description. As always, thank you for listening, and please connect with us on Instagram if you haven't already. Now get out there and crush it.